We're
hoping
going
we're
live now. We're
okay.
going live now.
All right, I'm told we are live now. So hello again. This is Brian Copeland talking. Welcome to another edition of Copeland's Corner. Great panel this week, as always. We got Kathy Ladner with us down in Los Angeles. I say down in. I'm here in the Bay Area.
Right.
We've got the great Hal Sparks. Where are you, Hal? Where are you
I'm
joining
currently
us
in
from?
Los Angeles. I will be in Vegas after my show tonight. I'm doing Flappers tonight, and then I drive back.
You drive back from what is the drive from Vegas? About 3 hours,
4
hours?
hours and change.
4 hours and change. And
Yeah.
do you
That's
drive the
fast.
4 hours and then jump out and jump on stage, or do you get there like the day before? Or
Oh no,
slip over?
it depends on the night. Like yesterday, I did a show at the Whiskey on the Sunset Strip last night, so I'll drive in just in time for sound check,
Mhm.
and then I got maybe 2 hours, 3 hours between that and show, and then sometimes I'll drive back that very night.
God, you're
Uh,
so young and full of energy.
Full of myself, I think is the
Oh.
yeah.
And of course, Tom Sawyer, who is our executive producer and frequent on-air contributor, has joined us because this is a big day after the historic speech that the president gave last night with all of
Who
the
watched it?
all. Yeah, well, that's
I
the
did.
question. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
see, that's a surprise.
I knew
Really,
you watched it.
watched it.
yeah, of course. I mean, it's
You're a
kind of
better
my
man than me, Gungadin.
yeah, it's kind of my gig right now because when COVID hit, I started live streaming all of Trump's speeches and basically doing a live note for note,
Mhm.
debunking / joking. It was a drive-by joking, and it turned into a streaming thing. So my live stream show, Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, I've been doing since COVID effectively. And now I do 20 hours of streaming a week, 3 morning
Oh, I didn't
shows
know you did that much.
and
Wow.
5 days a week in the afternoon, and then my radio show on Saturdays. And
I'm tired just listening to
it started out with just like whenever he would show up, and then I was like, I gotta have a schedule because this is now the business because live shows weren't coming back anytime soon, and now I got a kid, I got mouths
you. You
to
have a
feed.
kid?
Yeah, I've got a 14-year-old.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, according to Alan Dershowitz, that's not a kid.
That's right. That's true. Yeah. True. He basically should have a license to drive, and he could be married.
That's so great, Hal.
Thank you. I can't tell you how much it is. I mean, but it's just
Well,
lovely.
yeah, but it's pretty exhausting and it's just my daughter's 22 now and it never stops.
See,
Well,
I think it switches categories though. Certainly,
But
when
it never
they stop
stops.
being a minor. I mean,
Yeah.
emotionally it doesn't, but legally it shifts around
Oh
quite a bit.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so anyways, I started doing that at COVID, and then it started a regular afternoon show like 3 to 5, and which would stretch on if I was doing a Trump thing because it would take hours to debunk all the lies, and then so much so focused on like clips and videos that were posted that I would react to around politics that I started a morning show Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. to 11, where I could talk about sort of the broader stuff, like just so I could break out the topics. Because a lot of it's so hard to just chase the lie, and you don't feel like you're making any ground on what your actual philosophy and what you're actually trying to root for is. And then I started getting guests on that. So all of you are welcome, and I will have you
So
in
do you
rotation.
do
I would love
this
to do it.
every day, every single weekday?
Yeah, I do
Every
it.
weekday, and then you're doing shows at night on top of it.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
And then I
did that
tour with
crazy
Nerd Halen, my Van Halen cover band. That's true. It turned
Are you
out
serious?
started as a hobby and then turned into a real thing.
And who are you? And who are you in the
I'm
what
the
are you-
lead singer, and we're the
You're Eddie.
only band. Well, we're
I
the
mean,
no,
I'm sorry, you're David Lee
Dave-
Roth, or are you Hagar?
both. We're the only, and we do Sharon as well. So we're the only Van Halen cover band that does all 3 singers.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Well,
That's impressive.
I've got range. I'm just saying.
And Tom, you have moved to the wine country up here, so he's
Oh,
Yeah,
so
I
so
did-
he's
nice.
half unpacked. So he's half unpacked. So literally half
It's
unpacked.
going from a 1,300 square foot home in Mill Valley to a 2,800 square foot home in
Nice.
Sebastopol. And
You love
it's
it?
got, yeah, I have a pool room I'm converting to a man cave, and
Nice.
where all my
Very
music will be. And yeah, it's just awesome. It's really,
Oh,
I
that's
will,
so
I will be
great.
looking in home and garden for it.
yeah,
So-
we have,
so-
it's so weird at night too here. We have thousands of frogs
Wow.
in the field across from us. There's a ranch, like we can look and see the horses. So it's really weird. It's weird. It's
I'll have to
lovely.
come up and see it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna jump because we got so much that we got to get to before we run out of time because
Yes.
we're
Okay,
kind of
cool.
short today.
Well, see you
Um,
guys.
Right,
Yeah.
out of here. Okay, the way this goes, and you guys have been here since we've done this format. Individual questions for each of you. You will answer, and then everybody else can jump in. Okay, this is for your close up. So I'm going to start with you, Hal, since you watched the whole thing last night.
Yeah.
Yesterday, all day long, you had Republican lawmakers. You had Fox News. You had Newsmax. You had every right winger in the
Everybody's
world
covering.
yelling and screaming and whining about the fact that you had 72 Democratic lawmakers who were boycotting it because of the alternative, the People's State of the Union is what they were calling it. They ended up getting huge numbers, like a couple of million views from what it is, several million views from what it is, I understand. And what they were saying is, and this is why I just found this hysterical, is you had people like Mike Johnson saying that this is completely disrespectful to the country to boycott that speech. It's disrespectful to the Constitution that the State of the Union is the one time, with the exception of the inauguration, where the country there's no left, there's no right, there's no Democrats, there's no Republicans. We should all come together. So
You lie. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Right.
Do you think that lawmakers who didn't attend were disrespectful?
No, I feel like they're trying to thread a needle on an extraordinary circumstance. And I think in a lot of ways, it's debatable whether not showing up or showing up and doing something in protest or showing up and in spite of party leadership, standing and clapping when you want or not, or whatever would be your own thing. There is no here's the thing. When the Democrats have a genuinely broad coalition of people, and that will include over the next year incorporating some independents into that will push the electorate, in general towards Democrats in the House and the Senate, hopefully helping them take it back this fall. But there is no clear path to how you get to each of those independent groups. So some people in their constituency, the way they show off to their constituency is to take it on the heel and toe. There's another group that the way they would show off to their constituency that they're there to confront the powers that be and actually fight for it or whatever is to show up and just do the duty. And then there's other ones there were tons of them that showed up and were yawning. There were a couple of people that they did it every time the camera was on them on purpose. I would like to point out that there was this joke amongst Democrats that they would act like they were falling asleep anytime they knew the camera was pointing their way and they could see which way it was slipping. And then there were others who held up signs like Al Green and had to be marched out, right? And I think that is more indicative of the variety of constituencies that Democrats work with than any kind of master plan, because no single master plan would have worked across all the areas. That's what Trump's hoping for, and that's the problem that he's in. That's why his numbers suck, because he thinks MAGA is all you got to do is get up there and bang the MAGA gong, and everybody will line up for it. And it worked for a while, or appeared to work at least.
It worked long enough.
Yes. It's not working now. And this speech was less about cowing Democrats and ingratiating independents as it was putting the fear of Trump in MAGA Republicans and the rhinos that love them to get back in line for the midterms. It was really about them. The strategy, the reason it was as long as it was because it was an applause break every 2 minutes, because it was basically a giant cabinet meeting. It was where everybody sits around like, oh, you're just awesome,
Yeah,
boss.
I mean, it's all.
Well, they're calling it a rally.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sycophants. It was all the sycophants.
But see, I did not watch it. I read and watched a lot of read all the stuff. I watched all the analysis. I saw several clips. And, why would you, as Democratic lawmakers, if supposedly this is, according to Mike Johnson and Geraldo Rivera and a bunch of these other right wingers, if this is supposed to be a time for, it's disrespectful not to go because it's not showing a country unity. Why would I want to go and sit there and be called crazy and be called a lunatic and be constantly berated by this babbling old man?
Also, I'm sorry, but to not take a stand at this point and say this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. This is not a time for protocol. Oh no!
Right.
Again, hear me?
Okay.
I don't even know.
You're being attacked by the deep state. You're absolutely right, and I think that's you're absolutely right, Kathy. I think that is the root of why there's sort of a division of strategy, which there has to be. Again, it's going to be based on everybody's constituency and what they think will help them in the midterms. And there will be a variety of responses, because you're not going to get an AOC in West Virginia, and you're not going to get a West Virginia Democrat in a bluer than blue district.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a variety of approaches that people take from, all the way from,
Well,
like I said, the extreme of
Actually,
outreach.
but you might, because we are seeing these weird races where there are ruby red districts that Trump won by 17 or 18 points that are now flipping by 17 or 18 points.
Right, but they're not flipping to an AOC. They're flipping to what is effectively derogatorily referred to as a centrist Dem, or what would
Blue
be
dog
an old blue
Democrats
dog.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
right. Because
but that's all the Democratic Party's been putting on these folks and all the time. This is why we lose these districts the next
Yes.
the next election cycle, is because they don't stand for anything.
Right.
They're not fighting for anybody. They're fighting to be just centrist, which means nothing anymore. I think
Yeah, go ahead.
that's when I think about somebody like Graham Plattner talks from Maine, and he talks to regular people. I think that guy could run anywhere in the country. I think that guy could communicate with anybody because he's a regular guy. He wears jeans. He talks like a regular person.
Right.
He doesn't talk like a politician. He doesn't talk like a centrist.
I agree with the sentiment and the sort of material focus of it, but we've also been on this horse before. You could effectively say that that's how Bush won over the Christian conservatives to a party that had been losing them all through Clinton. With Newt Gingrich's,
But Clinton was another centrist, though. That's my point. My whole
well, he
point
wouldn't have gotten elected otherwise.
Yeah,
But that's what we keep saying, though.
No,
But who's the last liberal we had?
I'm saying that we're not in a situation where centrism, is a broader, a smaller definition like it used to be. It used to be centrist at all cost was what a centrist was that they were going to make tea with or break bread with anybody because the deal making was the most important thing. Now we've got the opposite situation, which is the crust thinks it's the pizza, and effectively we're all, whether we like it or not, in some version of the center, because the extremes have gotten so big. And this includes, us on on the far left of what we got. It's less of a threat, certainly, than the far right. But the far right has eaten effectively MAGA. But the Overton window on what's an acceptable policy has moved so dramatically because of Trump.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
But I think that clearly the right doesn't care whom it steps on. And
you think that's because they feel stepped on and this is their victim mentality, or do you think it's hostile or a mixture?
I think they're to a great degree bullies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think they're to a great degree bullies. And somebody wrote the other day that deplorables wasn't enough. That wasn't even enough. That didn't go far enough.
Right.
Deplorables was quaint.
It was quaint.
Saying
And we hurt their feelings, and Democrats don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Well, look at it this way. We have a partial government shutdown of funding for the Department of Homeland Security because the Republicans won't give in on ICE taking off their masks. I mean, that's going too far. If ICE having to take off their mask, having to wear a badge with their badge number on like any other law enforcement officers in this country, and have minimum training.
And why won't they do that? Because they know what they're doing is heinous.
Well, also
illegal.
But the other issue, and that was another part of it too, is that they have to use legal warrants that are signed by judges.
Mm-hmm.
Other part of this is too, and this is not getting a lot of play, is that it was because a lot of them are Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. A lot of them are Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and January 6ers who were pardoned.
A lot of
January 6ers.
And they would be doxxed simply by their appearance. They wouldn't even need to do any kind of deep research into it. Anybody who just did a perfunctory scan on their faces would know that they, what record they had and what else they've been involved in. So you're absolutely right in that regard. The biggest problem they have with immigration and ICE on the right is the fact that, and I will stand on this over and over until somebody finally realizes it's true, is that The number that Trump put out, 25 to 35 million psychopaths that entered the country, that were any asylum seeker had broken out of an asylum, because he doesn't understand what the word means. So he thinks people who broke out of an asylum are seeking asylum in the United States, because that's how his brain is tapioca.
They got in the straitjacket to come here.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that I guess they were told, like, mind your manners, psychopath, don't rape, murder, or eat anybody until you reach the American border. Like, what the hell? Like, they wouldn't just scatter into the countryside. I don't understand. Like, these are a big water slide or a tube they fed him in the United States. Doesn't matter. 25 million to 35 million is his number. That number never existed. It doesn't exist now, and it has never existed. We have about 11 million undocumented people in the country right now.
And they're not rapists and murderers.
No, it's a
or dog
number.
and cat eaters either.
Right.
Right.
But it's a static number, and it's been relatively static. The number that they're quoting is based on recidivism at the border, because Title 42 kicked you out immediately, whereas Title 8, if you tried to break in, it went on your record and you couldn't ever try again. But it's under Title 42, you could try again and again and again. So everybody who came across the border came across 8, 10 times sometimes, and then they were just rejected. And so that number, what Democrats counted as, that's the same person coming in 10 times. Republicans counted as 10 people. And so during that entire period in Biden, they stacked this number. So the problem with that lie is it gets you elected, because holy shit, there's a tidal wave of humans that got into the country, and they're all psychopaths, and they want to rape and eat you, and not necessarily in that order. And then
white people, by the way, only.
Well, no, I mean,
all the victims are all white people.
Well, you'll recall that
victims.
in Chicago there was a big reaction amongst the black community there, that they were reacting to this as well. It's why the black vote went Trump's way with certain voters, because they were sold this lie as well. Well-to-do Hispanics also were kind of taught this kind of class version of it. Here come the poor people I left Venezuela to avoid. Those folks were moved to vote this way.
Newcomer syndrome. I have someone who's very close to me, who's first generation Mexican American, and said that those whose parents came here legally will refer to those who are coming here undocumented as being wetbacks, and they look at them as it's newcomer syndrome.
So that's two standards and a different point that's worth talking about. But the main number that Trump has as a problem is that there are not the 25 to 35 million people here. So how do you do mass deportations of people that do not exist? And so what MAGA is clamoring for is busloads, plane loads, round these people up, and I want to see it. I want to see you put them on a giant oil tanker, and I want hundreds of thousands of people, like a reverse slave ship, being sent back to South America.
That's what he
promised. Yes, that's what he promised them. But the problem is he can't deliver. Not only is it not, legally possible, it's not physically possible. The people don't exist. So he will never be able to deliver for the crowds. That's why Nick Fuentes is flipping out and saying we're never going to get mass deportations. What Nick Fuentes doesn't realize is because you can't deport people who aren't here in the first place.
Yeah, in the first place.
Right. And the whole thing, I mean, from what I read from last night's about last night's address, it was just so many lies.
Yeah.
Just so many
lie
lies.
After lie after lie.
And cartoonish lies.
What?
They're cartoonish.
Yes,
I mean,
but what happens is that he tells lies. His sycophants applaud him. Fox News parrots his lies, and the people who are susceptible believe it. It's a huge propaganda machine, is what it is, and it's just the lies are becoming spoken of as if they're true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, I think that's been the strategy all along. You could argue that that's actually propaganda 101, but I do think they're running into a wall right now. His numbers are in the shitter for a reason.
They're the worst. I mean, they're historically low, not just historically for him.
Too.
And that's not because you and I and everybody on this panel decided we suddenly hated him.
So what do we attribute that to then?
The inability to carry through with promises based on material impossibilities.
Right.
So
for example, what you just said about the 25 to 30 million, for saying what he said about gas being a dollar something a gallon.
$1.85.
Yeah, right. His idea of tariffs is not how tariffs work. It's
No.
never how tariffs
Well,
work.
this
But he
ridiculous,
said
the
it.
ridiculous statement that he made last night about getting rid of the income tax and replacing it with revenue from tariffs.
Right.
Well, it's about saying
understand how
I'm
this
going to
works?
reduce pharmaceuticals by 500%.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he keeps saying it. Like
Right.
if I keep
And
saying
nothing
it,
ever
it'll be
happens.
true.
Okay, so here again. This goes to his messaging, which apparently, a certain chunk of MAGA will always be susceptible, in theory, to this, but an increasing number of them are going, hang on, wait a second, this is actually affecting me. That's where you're seeing a bunch of this.
Yep.
So Trump started Trump RX about a month ago, and Trump RX is good RX with a label slapped over it, but it's only like 12 or 15 drugs, and it's only the name brand. On GoodRx, you can get the exact same one, same drug at the price that's on Trump RX, that's name brand, but you can also buy the generic, which is even cheaper.
Right.
None of this applies to anybody who has any remote level of government insurance, whether you're a veteran or you were a government employee, or you have Medicare or Medicaid.
Right.
So to most of the people that needs to affect, it can't affect. They won't even be able to get it. And there's another place that could get it cheaper already. So the delivery point is a fantasy, and no one is buying it literally in this situation. The activity, they brought out the first woman to buy a drug off of there, and she got it cheaper. Well, that's because it was made cheaper across the board by laws passed 3 years ago.
Right. It probably reached its
generic level. Right.
Yes,
Let me jump back a second about what you were saying about this mass deportation. And the fact is that there are not as many undocumented people here as he claims, but he wants to do the show for the base. Here's what scares the shit out of me. Is they are building, are planning, or trying to build concentration camps that are enormous. There's one site somewhere in the Midwest, I can't think where it is, where that would house 10,000 people. Which would make it the largest prison, not just federal prison, but the largest prison or detention center in the country. And they're talking about several of these. Now, if you don't have the undocumented people who they're supposedly built to detain, they're going to have to film somebody, and you better believe they're going to film them. You better believe they're going to.
So a couple of things. No, they don't have to fill them. That's the issue. The problem thing is that these are not camps where you can fly a drone over them and see a bunch of tents and people milling around. These are giant. It's like the data centers.
Like
these
domes?
Giant concrete buildings. They're like prisons. And you have no idea. If you drive by a prison and you're like, how many inmates does that place hold? Is it full or not? You won't be able to know. But you'll just, if you're pro-crime, if you're pro-prevention or whatever, you'll look at that and go, there's a prison there. Thank God we've got a prison.
Right.
And so you could sell to the people that he's trying to sell to. That place is full all the time. I'm constantly filling that thing. It's a great way. It's a wall to hide the failure behind. It's also a boondoggle for the state to throw some federal dollars their way to bail them out. And that money has to be there, whether you're using it or not. When it's unlike a prison, which can go, well, we just don't have the numbers over time, so we're going to shrink down part of the prison, fire some of the staff or whatever, eliminate some of the wings, all that kind of stuff. You can't do that with a detention center. The idea is that at any given time there could be caravans, there could be what, so it's got to be maintained at its full capacity all the time, especially if it's a filtration unit, which is really what they're talking about. And when you've got 11 million people in the United States, that are undocumented, a statistical window of 8 to 12,000 of them being deported for any number of reasons, much less criminal reasons, and having to be housed criminally until such time as their home country takes them back to a prison is a completely reasonable number. This is why the Biden administration had better deportation numbers than Trump did, because there's a reality: 88 to 95,000 people a year that are involved in some variation of crime in 11 to 12 million people that will be removed from the country. That's not even a giant number, but it's normal and it's regular and it's always turned over. But Trump is acting like that number is special to sell that bullshit to his followers and hide the fact that there aren't 25 million people here.
But the problem is the same problem they run into every time, which is you can only bullshit the same people over and over and over again because everybody, but even at this point, if it's 1% or 2% a month or every 4 months that are falling off I can't buy this bullshit anymore. This is ridiculous. When something he does hits a nerve where they jump ship, eventually that number is his disapproval number is going to hit below 30, or even if it's at 30, it's horrible.
It's at 26. It's at 26 with independents. But the point that I was trying to make in terms of that got to fill in with somebody is right now they don't care who they're detaining. That's the point I'm trying to make. They don't care. They're claiming everybody is either a domestic terrorist or you're undocumented.
Right.
Yes.
But that's great in a weird way because it exposes him as being like it just incompetent. You know, these are neighbors that he's pulling out of their houses. People know these people. They live with them. There's a guy down at the Target, the guy down at the hardware store. These are friends and family. They might not know they're here illegally, or they might know they're here legally, and then they're more outraged.
And that's the issue: is they basically don't care if your skin does not pass the white enough test. The Supreme Court under I think it was Kavanaugh who wrote the majority decision that if it's common sense, to check somebody because they're doing construction work or because they're standing in front of a Home Depot, you have the right to go up. Officers have the right to go up and to question and to detain them.
That's because they're doing it illegally.
And also they don't want they want to eliminate as many legal checks and balances as they possibly can in all this process. I mean, this is all about the Supreme Executive movement that's been going on in the White House since Bill Barr was with George W. Bush 1. The whole goal of them is to move the actual function of the government into the presidency because it's a better use of your money to get one guy in there than have to keep half the Senate or have to keep even the SCOTUS. If you can get the president, you've got the SCOTUS by hook or by crook. And if you can weasel word your SCOTUS people in, you can eventually you control 2 parts of our 3 co-equal branches with a lower financial investment.
I have a question. Is this the first time in the history of our country where the balance of power was so completely unbalanced? Or has this ever happened before in our country?
I mean, you can argue.
I'm trying to think of the Civil War.
Nixon never went to jail. I mean, you can argue that there was always sort of a protection racket that happens around part of it, but a lot of that was about comity and function. That democracy is so delicate, it can't, especially early on, it couldn't take a tire kicking like it needs right now.
Right.
Well, I've heard a couple of commentators over the course of the last 10 years say that if Fox News had been around in 1974, Nixon would have survived. Do you believe that? I do. If Fox News and Newsmax and all of the right-wing radio and everything else had existed, and that entire echo chamber and the propaganda machine, that Nixon would have survived.
Okay, to what extent, I think there is a bit of a wrinkle in that theory, and that is what I would call the Tucker Carlson anti-Semitic red break that's happening right now. Nixon would have fallen into the Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens clique of the Jews are behind every curtain. And because that's where he was at the end when he was, boozing it up and yelling at paintings. So
who doesn't yell at portraits? Come on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you should see me in a museum. It's disgusting.
I oughta.
Mona Lisa, you got it coming to you.
Right. Smile, bitch.
Stop looking at me.
You don't smile enough.
You smile. Right. Yeah. You know how many times I've seen this dumb painting and I've never seen her smile? You're like Caitlin Collins. But I do think there's only so much patchwork they can do, which is why they do so much picking up for him in the background. Right now, though, there is a movement to set up JD Vance as quick as possible because Trump is not going to make it to the end of this term.
I
I'm
don't see
telling
it.
you.
No,
I don't
he's
see
not.
He's
Oh,
not.
well, I mean, her what's breaking now. I mean, now as we speak, you got FBI whistleblowers and people who are turning on him. And
Yeah.
NPR is reporting that there is I think it's 52 or 53 pages of documents that they found that of an accuser who came forward. I believe it was either 2017 or 2019.
2019.
It was
She was interviewed
2019
4 times. It
by
doesn't
the
say whether
FBI.
she was interviewed before that. It's just the last time, and the only one of the 4 that's in the files of the 4 interviews, the only one that's there is the one in 2019.
Okay,
The
well,
other 3 interviews are hidden or gone, and that's not an accident.
but the accusation
No.
is that Trump sexually abused her when she was a minor. That's what the accusation
Yeah,
is.
13 years old.
FBI is come. You have FBI whistleblowers who are talking about what Kash Patel has been doing with with government jets on our dime. Apparently, when they had the Brown mass shooting, they had trouble getting FBI personnel to the site because Kash Patel was off somewhere partying. On one of the FBI government jets. I mean, it's just finally they're saying enough. Finally, you got the rank and file; those who haven't already been purged are saying enough. I want to move this just a little bit so we can kind of keep this going. I got a couple other topics. Kathy, here's a question I got for you, and this is sort of on the same topic of what we've been talking about here, since we're on to the Epstein files. There's a bipartisan resolution in the House that it's got Republican support and Democratic support. Republicans like Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert are supporting it. And what this would do is they would publish the names of any congressperson who's made a settlement after an allegation of sexual harassment or sexual misconduct, especially if there was an NDA, especially if there was money that was paid to make somebody be quiet. Now, do you think that well, I'm just going to flat out ask it. Number one, do you think it should be law? Number two, do you think it's fair? Because an allegation is not, that's the bell you can't unring. Once
Right,
you're
and
accused
yes.
of that or molestation, yeah, a court of law and a jury could say you didn't do it. Doesn't matter. You did it. You're guilty.
But a settlement was paid, correct?
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything
It
necessarily.
doesn't? I
Not
mean,
necessarily. Just means
no?
you can't talk. Let me give you an example. When Me Too was at its height, I had a manager at a major agency down south, and who represented a lot of big clients. And there was a period where I couldn't reach him for about 3 days. And I go, "So what's up? Where you been?" He goes, "Well, I had a situation because one of my clients, and he wouldn't tell me who, but an A-lister, got a phone call from somebody he had worked with 20 years ago, who said, 'I have Gloria Allred, and we have a press conference that's scheduled for tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And I'm going to allege this, and this, unless I get $1 million.'" And so my agent talks to the actor, who says that that's just flat out untrue. It's a lie. It never happened, and there's nobody to prove it because it didn't happen. And she said her response was, "I don't need proof. All I need is a press conference." And guess what? She got paid. She didn't get $1 million, but she got paid because all she needs is all she needed was a press conference. Now, I'm not saying wasn't telling the truth because I don't know any of the details of it. But what I'm saying is, just because you were accused and you settled it,
That's right. Well, that basically that's kind of like, I mean, in our legal system, it says you're innocent until proven guilty.
Mhm.
but that's
And
not how it works.
Well,
not in the court of public opinion.
no,
And again,
Right.
no, right. And it can smear your reputation. Yes, it can. But how do you legislate something like that? I don't quite see how you can legislate it. I mean,
Oh, you can legislate it easily. They could legislate it. First of all, it would never. It's not going to get through the Senate, and it's sure as hell not.
Right.
It's not going to be a filibuster-proof majority if it did.
Right.
And it would still, it's not going to be a veto-proof majority if it did. But yeah, you could make that a federal law, that if you were someone in Congress holding elected office, and
I mean, my initial reaction is, if you pay somebody a large sum of money to be quiet, there's some culpability. Am I being naive? And please tell me if you think I'm being naive, but I think if you're willing.
I think to Brian's point, the idea is that you're setting up basically a blackmail industry if you eliminate the ability to do this, because all somebody has to do is arrange to accuse you of the most egregious thing, and
then it has to become public knowledge.
It has to become, no matter what. And so
okay, I see the
and I mean, there's an element of it. It pulls the Band-Aid off. Like, if there's a process by which people can adjudicate these things, which we do have in the court of law, that you have to file it, and you have to have an evidentiary standard to make these accusations.
Right.
The whole point should be
most
of the time when people are like, can you pay this off or whatever? A lot of times it only works as a point of blackmail or as manipulation.
Right. I mean, that's what it is, blackmail.
If it's in a gray area. So the idea is that, yes, we used to date, but during that time I was not abusive. She doesn't have any, I was the abused one. I don't have any evidence that she punched me in the face while I was sleeping all the time. But she did, and she's now running to be the first president of the United States. And I want to warn everybody that, when we were sleeping together, she used to have these fits in the night and wake up and punch me and kick the cat. And that's kind of something you might want to factor in if you're going to vote for her. And so I don't have any pictures, though. I do worry about it. I could be telling the truth or I could be lying. It's impossible to say. What is the standard by which I can go after another person and accuse them of something that will affect their life,
because you cannot unring.
I know that you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
That's right, and that's what they count on. And to some degree, that's there's a definitely Trump allegedly yelled at Lauren Boebert in the Situation Room. This is going to affect my friends. First of all, he doesn't have any friends. Secondly, he's got sycophants and hangers on and business partners.
Yeah, we know who it's going to affect.
Him.
Well, it's so like, I mean, the bottom line is that it's so sad that there are so many bad, shitty people.
You know what it is? I gotta say, Kathy, in defense of humanity, there aren't. Somebody was saying it the other day about how Carlin had this line. Carlin had this line. It's a big club and you're not in it. And the point was made. It's actually a small club.
It's a small club. Yes, it is. And but it's too bad that they seem to hold the rudder of where things go.
Price of civilization. I mean, there was a period of time when if there was a pederast in town or whatever, the townsfolk would burn their house down with them in it. And then a couple of them turned out to be innocent, and a couple of Salem witch trials later, and people started going, hey, we got to slow our roll about who you can report and how and what that standard is and your standard of proof. And if we're going to put them in jail for 6 years or 8 years or 12 years, we got to have a standard of proof for a length of time like that.
But it's also
in order to I'm sorry, Tom, you want to?
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay, in order to protect people who are innocent, we have to let people who are guilty
go. Yeah.
Well, it's like this. When I was a kid, my grandmother mostly raised me, and grandma was from the South, and we used to get punished with a switch. And there were 5 of us. And so if something got broken or something was done that there was some misbehavior, she would say who did it. And if nobody said who did it, she would whip everybody, because she'd say, that way I'm sure I get the right one.
Right.
Yeah. So until I would rat out and say it was her.
Right. Well, there's a great scene in Schindler's List when the guy, somebody did something and all the prisoners are in line and a guy was shot dead in the line. And then he said, so does no one know who's guilty of this? And this little boy says, I do. It was him. And he points to the dead guy because that was the only person who couldn't get hurt.
Yeah.
But I think that
there needs to, one of the things that has been put forward, by the way, that Democrats have put forward recently, Chuck Schumer and a group of the victims came out with an idea that child sexual exploitation should not have a statute of limitations, because a lot of times specific to the victimization, it takes a long time for them to be able to come out about it, and the statute of limitations,
remember it. In some cases.
Well, even then, the statute of limitations on an adult who has the ability to file legal stuff on their own without getting representation from somebody else, they could literally handle it on their own, is very different than a child. And so they're moving to remove that barrier. So it doesn't change the rules. Yeah, I agree. Doesn't change the rules of evidence in it, but it does extend the time by which they can do this. And that's one of the things that held this up. One of the reasons why the FBI didn't do anything about a bunch of these things in the late 2000s, especially after he'd been busted the first time, which is usually when the sharks circle, when somebody finally gets busted, then the rest of the legal system goes, oh yeah, we thought he might have been the guy. Can we take a look at your books? And then they piggyback on a case and piggyback on a case. It's how serial killers are caught. And Epstein would have been caught in much the same way had that extended past. But Pam Bondi's predecessor, Alex Acosta, gave him not just him a pass, but his buddies a pass.
Everybody a pass.
Right. So that switch would create a situation. Yeah. Create a situation where, 6 years had passed by 2008 for a lot of the victims that were ready to come forward. Because those are the victims from 1999 to 2002, 2003. Right. And that window, very Trump heavy, big, that right about the time he was like, he likes him on the younger side and all that shit. Those would have been the victims, and their statute of limitations on reporting it had run out by the time he'd actually been busted in West Palm Beach. You could argue that slow roll was part of it. That was not an accident either.
Right. By the way, I should mention too, right before we came on, I was reading that Larry Summers, who is a professor at Harvard right now, had been president of Harvard, secretary, treasurer under Clinton, is resigning because of his association with apparently there are dozens and dozens and dozens of contacts after the fact. This is like after it's known what he did. Well, let me get to this. This is the gasser. So he's talking apparently. Among the things over these years he talked to Jeffrey Epstein about was romantic advice and dating advice. I mean, he's going to Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh my God.
For dating advice. The president of Harvard is going to Jeffrey Epstein for dating advice.
All my parents would say about Epstein is that he's bad for the Jews. He's bad for the Jews.
And but there is some accountability. This is the first person I've heard of being held accountable in this country. I mean, you've got what I call the artist formerly known as Prince Andrew getting arrested. You've got the former ambassador to the UK, Peter Mendelsohn, ambassador from the UK to the US, who has been arrested in relation to this. Poland has announced that it's forming a task force to go through the Epstein files and look under every rock because they don't like the half-assed way that the United States has been dealing with this. This stuff is going to come out.
Yep.
This is an epidemic. I mean, why is it that all of these men are doing this? Where does
they
that
have insane
start from?
amounts of money and they believe they're invincible. They've been getting away with everything for their entire lives, and the more money they get, the more power they get, the more invincible they feel, and you get bored with everything. So what's the next taboo thing I can break? It's eyes wide shut.
I think it's more of a gravitation than boredom, because there's a lot of bored billionaires out there, and the majority of them by far don't end up pedophiles. These are people who
how do you know that?
I know it as much, I guess, as I know that about everybody on this panel, I suppose, that but I know that there's specifically a group of them that are being accused, have been accused repeatedly, and they aren't getting their comeuppance. If you're worried about the ones that we don't know about, we need to handle the ones we do know about to put the fear of lightning bolts in the others. But I would also like to point out that without Sarah Kellen or Leslie Groff or Ghislaine Maxwell or what was her name, Marchinka, I forget her main name, but she was one of the flight attendants that was with Epstein all the time.
You mean basically they were
enablers.
They were
recruiters.
Yeah. They made a living in it, and I would say that this is it's kind of, I view it in many ways, and this is not to cast aspersions on swingers. I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum, but there is a world around that, like nudists and other folks, where they kind of gravitate together. Very few, people who are completely away from the idea ever get there, but people who are curious about it will show up and decide whether it's that for them or not, and that kind of stuff. It seems that there is also in part of this recruitment idea that Epstein and others have run. And let's not forget, Matt Gaetz and Joel Greenberg were trying to run the exact same system in Florida to be. Matt Gaetz wanted to be the new Epstein. That's
Matt
what he and Joel
Gaetz was
Greenberg
the
were
first
doing.
was the first choice for
AG.
yes,
Right, because of this. Because of this, people on the right, amazingly enough, they want to lay this at Pam Bondi's feet, mainly as an excuse for Trump. But most of them are saying this Pam Bondi is failing at her job. They're like, no, she's not. She's doing exactly the job she was hired for. Donald Trump picked her. She could have torn up that co-conspirator agreement while she was AG of Florida. She never did. And and that means she's on the team.
They're all enablers, every single one of them. That nobody in our government cares about the law.
No.
And nobody cares about what's decent.
I'm curious. Do any of you know anybody who's in the files? I know somebody who's in the files, but they didn't do anything. It's just like if Epstein sent an email to somebody saying, "Oh, I saw Hal Sparks last night. His show was great." You're in the Epstein files.
I'm in there but I'm only there in spam. Leslie Groff, I show up in spam. This is a true story. So I went and looked up my name, and I pop up once along with John Fugelsang and Stephanie Miller and Aisha Tyler, because we were all doing the Sexy Liberal Comedy Show, and we were doing it at the Beacon Theater. We were on the schedule, and Leslie Groff got the schedule for the Beacon Theater sent to her because she was interested in seeing Belinda Carlisle or some shit like this. And so there was a ticket thing for her link that she had opened. It was an opened email that she had looked at some point for the Beacon Theater.
And your names were
ours was, I mean, we're like 15th down in the also coming up in the calendar, but I'm in the calendar for a piece of spam in the Epstein files. And I'm happy to say that is probably the greatest way you can show up, other than my nemesis Hal Sparks keeps showing up with a length of chain and a cinder block, and if I go outside, he's going to cave my head in.
Finally, a credit comics can't use.
And on top of that, too, you weren't playing at the Beacon 38,000 times.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, and doing the penis monologues, and he was like, "I love that show." So.
Penis monologues. You remember Puppetry of the Penis?
Of course.
I do.
I've made the argument many times that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. looks like if somebody at Puppetry of the Penis took their scrotum and twisted up into a knot and went, if you blink, it looks like Bobby. If you squint a little. See that? All right. Because that's what he looks like. He looks like a nut sack that's been frozen into the shape of Bobby Kennedy.
The person in charge of America's health just told the world he snorted coke off a toilet seat. What are we doing? I have to laugh because it's so horrible.
It's so
cartoonish.
It's so ridiculous.
Can I say in defense of the insanity that if it was a little more stable, it'd be a lot more dangerous.
Yes, I agree with you, but it's pretty fucking dangerous already.
Right. Yeah, but it's not spreading like it would.
Because it lacks gravitas.
Look at John Hughes' memos about torture
from the top down.
Yes.
Think of how enhanced torture became okay under the Bush administration and the lives it materially affected. People who were killed because of it.
Right.
And because it was cloaked in legality and normalcy, it was able to get through. But because Trump and his idiots are such cartoonish sycophants, it's like Dr. Evil's table when he has a cabinet meeting.
Like there's no finesse, there's no nuance, there's no finesse.
It would permeate a lot better. His poll numbers would be a lot better if he was the master salesman everybody said. Was it Brolin who said I met him and he was I don't know if we're friends, but I consider him the greatest salesman ever. And I was like, you do realize if your product doesn't suck, you don't have to be the greatest salesman ever. The greatest salesman ever, can sell shit to somebody with diarrhea. It's like, that's the point. That is somebody who is maddeningly good at lying
to make people think that they need something that they don't need.
They do not,
basically.
right? That it's a lie. They'll sell them a jalopy, a used car salesman. But if your product is good, it sells itself.
Right.
And Democrats have I think both benefited from that in terms of policy for a very long time and been harmed by it in the court of public opinion, because I think the next Democratic president, whoever they are, is going to have to beat their chest like they're Trump half the time to remind everybody why the child tax credit and S-chip and SNAP and all these things that Democrats have come up with over the years are necessary and are helping people. FEMA,
Yes.
all these things that Trump was going to tear down, and now everybody's put in charge of them are like, FEMA's doing the greatest job. Like Patel, he was going to tear down the FBI building and make it a monument to the deep state. Remember that? That was, and now
why not another ballroom?
Right. Yeah. But the point
I think
is,
it'd be great if we had a Democratic president who would go on every month and have a chat with the nation about the things that they've accomplished and the things they will accomplish.
That's what
the
FDR
things that we
did.
need to, and I need you to fight. I need you to call your senator and your congressperson and get this. This is for you.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, and
Hey, Tom,
I can't do it alone.
Let me give you your question, Tom, and yours is different than the one that I sent you. It's something you just made me think of. All right, let's say it's the beginning of January of 2027, and that there has been a blue wave, and that the Democrats control the House and the Democrats control the Senate, not a veto-proof majority, but they control Congress now. Okay, it's day one. What happens? What are their priorities and what happens? Is there a circular firing squad and they fuck everything up, or what do they do? What do they do? What happens?
First of all, they have to have a coherent plan about investigating the Trump having open hearings. They have subpoena power now, and they can subpoena all these people, put them in front of Congress under oath, and from there, just bring the attention to the American people just how bad the corruption has gone. Remember, these are House hearings. These are going to be on the news. No matter, Fox can do whatever they want to hide them, but at the end of the day, it's going to be blasted all over all over everything. And that's the best way, is the light disinfectant of the light of sunshine.
Okay, but here's the but, Tom. But I mean, is that what you want them to do first? You got people who.
What are they going to do?
You've got people who've had their health care ripped away. You've got people who got prescriptions and food.
Okay,
you've got all of this other stuff.
Let me go back.
Okay,
here's a wild card. And this is what Trump was going on and on about last night. He wants them to get rid of the filibuster so he can put in his voting thing. So, and he's really pressuring Thune to get rid of the filibuster. Now, if they do, I still think we win, because I think that his unpopularity will just get worse and worse and worse because he's an idiot. And if we do get rid of the filibuster, then we can do some real work and some real damage to the Republicans, because now we can have a filibuster supreme.
I hear you on that as well. I will say that the primary thing I think they need to do is have impeachment hearings under a different name. If they're going to do that kind of thing, they should say, we need some corruption hearings. There is so much corruption. We need to start unpacking it.
Impeachment it's an impotent word.
It is.
Mean anything.
It is lead the horse to water and wait until he's thirsty. And in this particular instance, with the maggots who are leaving the ship and the rhinos who want a future in the party without Trump, which is why he considers them an enemy. They're the ones who look in the mirror and think I should be president, not him. His little paranoid fantasy he had at the governor's dinner the other night. The Democrats need to take advantage of that by going, this isn't an impeachment hearing. We just know there's corruption going on and we want to get a handle on it. We also need to do proper oversight. So we're going to bring back in Patel and Bondi and all this stuff, and we're going to ask them the questions because we run the meetings now. And we're going to create special commissions to look into all of these things, and we're going to post all of our findings and evidence, like what they did with the January 6th committee, but about each of these things.
I think it needs to be like Nuremberg. That's what I think it is today.
Yeah.
But yes, but it has to be named in such a way that they can't just market it as, here we go.
Can't they call it Nuremberg?
Right. He's impeachment proof. It doesn't matter anymore. Plus, the Republicans have shown, and this goes back kind of the question you were initially going to ask me about if you're a Republican
and you're
running. What good was last night for you to be running on anything Trump said? Well, the truth is that a lot of these guys aren't going to be running again. A lot of the guys who will be running again will be running in districts that they have a chance of winning or a decent chance of winning. And then there's MAGA. I mean, we forget how many batshit crazy Republicans are out there. I mean, I just watching the guy with the Trump tie, the woman who kept looking into the camera, the congressperson who's wearing the beige business suit and was yelling at Al Green. That woman's a nutcase. And there are so many MAGA Republican Congress people, especially, who are batshit crazy. Those people are in batshit crazy districts. They'll always be there, or somebody like them will be there.
Right.
And then but that's why I think they're going to get destroyed, because we're seeing the numbers flip like almost like 20 point to 30 point swing.
20 to 40 point swing.
Yeah.
Actually.
Right.
But see, here's, go ahead, Kathy. I'm sorry.
I was saying, I think that the most accidentally prescient thing that Trump ever said was, "I love the uneducated."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was his ticket in.
Mm.
And I watch these guys like Dean Winter and Parker, whatever, I can't remember his name, and they all they do is debate for 5 hours MAGA, and these people are frighteningly stupid. They've got no leg to stand on. They've got no morals to stand on. Half of them think they're Christians, and they have no idea what Christ actually taught. They're like, you work with John. John's amazing.
Yeah.
And these guys have no clue what Jesus was about or what he taught. I mean,
I would say that there is, I know we have to wrap up, and I would just like to say I'm a huge fan of all of you, and I love you, and I wish I could squeeze you into one pretty woman, as Al would say. But we already have Kathy, so she's beautiful.
Yes.
So it would just I say that without settling. But the reality is the reality is that Trump had a grasp on the electorate based on fear points like immigration and crime. He's trying to aggressively readdress those to get that working, to reprime the pump with that. That's what last night was about. There was this parade of victims and war heroes and the like that he can hide behind to cover for his Epstein culpability. And he thinks, how dare you ask me about Epstein? I just gave that 100-year-old man an award and showed you this lady whose daughter was stabbed. Like, that's what he's using them for. The problem is it doesn't amount to actual policy. And we're not the only ones noticing. Maggots are noticing. Regular order rhinos want their party back, and they're just looking for blood in the water. The sharks are circling in the rhino group, and his own cabinet knows that his brain is tapioca. And they are all, they have two strategies between now and the midterms. One, he's alive for the midterms. And the whole purpose is, we've got to fight to keep this agenda alive, and the Democrats are going to let criminals run around and rape all your dogs. And then the other side is he croaks somewhere midsummer, which is a very real possibility. Mm-hmm. I have a doctor that shows up on my show all the time who deals with geriatric medicine, and his prescription is 2 to 5 months. That he has all the markers of somebody with cascading dementia.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, it's all of it. And day before yesterday, when he was stepping off his golf cart and his right leg, which has been wobbly before, was near collapse. He almost fell down. It was bad. So they know this, and what they're hoping, a bunch of them are hoping he kicks off before the midterms instead of right after, from the stress of losing, so that they can go, you've got to honor this man's legacy and help us save the republic. If you don't show up to vote for Republicans in the House and Senate, and make sure J.D. Vance will not be able to save the legacy of this man who died for you. They worked him down to a nub. Whatever. That's what they're going to sell it as. Mm-hmm. And they're already teeing up both tracks just in case. They've already got the obituary package written.
Yeah, the problem they have is they got J.D. Vance.
Who's such a dweeb.
Oh my God.
They know it.
All right, let me ask you this before you got to run, and that is, if it's Vance and Gavin Newsom in 28, what happens?
I don't even-
Newsom wins.
Well,
I mean, I'm saying, you think Newsom beats Vance?
Absolutely.
Yes.
No
Oh, yeah.
question.
yes.
No question.
I do. Knowing Gavin, I'm not
Yeah.
worried
I hope
about
so.
that. I don't think Gavin's going to be the nominee, but I think he wins.
I think honestly, he and Mark Kelly are an unbeatable ticket for the Democrats.
Yes.
I'm a big Chris Murphy fan.
Yeah,
Oh, I like
which is
Chris
exactly
Murphy,
why
too.
he would be great in the cabinet. You gonna- Tom.
Hey, listen, if you've got just a quick second, there's one last topic I wanted to talk that has nothing to do with politics. I wanted to throw in and just get your opinion on. We had two high-profile deaths over the course of the last couple of weeks. Eric Dane from Euphoria and Grey's Anatomy passed away, and James Van Der Beek passed away of colon cancer. Somebody, I believe it was James Van Der Beek's wife, set up a GoFundMe campaign. And she said that, I guess they were having some financial difficulties, or she said they were having trouble staying in their home. Somebody on behalf of Eric Dane's family has set up a GoFundMe as well. The GoFundMe for Eric Dane, the original goal was 250,000. Right past that, went to 300. Right past that, now it's coming up on 500,000. Vanderbeek's is up to $2.7 million. Now there's this big blowback online. If you look at Reddit and some other stuff, with people who are pissed off about the fact that that those who are celebrities who passed away are able, their families are able to raise enormous sums of money, despite the fact that there are people who are struggling, that there are people who can't make ends meet. Yet James Van Der Beek's family's got $2.7 million, and apparently his the house that his family can't stay in is a $4.8 million 500-acre ranch in Austin. And that, so do you think that there is anything that is wrong with family and friends of people who happen to, and see, we don't know their financial situation.
No,
too,
we
we're
don't.
talking about
And they-
colon cancer, and we're talking about ALS. It's a fortune in medical bills.
hmm
So
ALS, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe I know two people personally who've died from ALS, and it's a huge drain financially. It's a huge drain.
I would say no, and fuck anybody who complains about those kind of things. I think in the area of like it's like you'll hear the same complaints about politically oriented GoFundMe's about people who lose their job for being racist or lose their job because they refuse to be racist. Like there's always going to be chatter about those things. I think when it comes to a celebrity, a lot of people, it's a financial equivalent because it's not one big chunk of 2.5 million. Nobody like angel gifted them. It's a lot of people kicking in a little bit to go, you know what, you brought me pleasure in my life. I thought I'd be able to see another one of your shows or movies or something like this, and I feel terrible. And thanks for the memories. And so sending $20 to this and stacking it up, it adds up over a lot of people. And the impact of of somebody like James Van Der Beek, as far as the volume of people he affected and the fans that he had, that little bit, if there's no way he doesn't have more than 3 million fans, and the idea that they'd all give $1 because they feel heartbroken that he's gone and they want to take care of his family because they liked his art and all that kind of stuff, that'll never be wrong.
Popular people will, I mean, people will garner more attention.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. If you're popular, more people pay attention to you.
Right. And or will be aware when the time comes to pay attention. There's a lot of very popular people who Alfalfa died in squalor. He was shot over a $5 argument.
He didn't have
it was
over a dog.
Right. It was a $50 argument over a hunting dog.
Yeah.
God. Poor Alfalfa.
Yeah, I know. And he always looked like that. Grown man, still had the tweak.
The thing?
The antenna.
Well, if you ever seen the movie White Christmas?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the picture of the Haynes sisters' brother, who was their pal from the army, that's Alfalfa in the picture.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also in It's a Wonderful Life, he's the one that opens up the floor so that the pool is exposed.
That's right. It is he.
Yeah.
That's right.
Him. That's him too.
And Brian, is there any other kind of Christmas?
Have you ever, anybody who lives in an area with as much snow that's been going around here, it has a grayish tint, I would like to say, in urban environments, and always has. The irony is that I think that was written by a British immigrant to the United States. You moved here, or whatever. But he was like at that time, London fog meant that the snow was like gray with industrial soot most of the time. And
Right.
that's sort of where the initial sentiment came from, was like
Mm.
before the Industrial Revolution, you used to be able to see the snow instead of
Right.
this whatever like coke
Good
that you
old
find all
clean
over.
coal.
That's right. That's exactly
Clean
right.
coal.
Beautiful,
Coley.
beautiful, clean coal. Yes.
Irving Berlin, by the way.
Yeah.
It was Irving Berlin. He was a Jewish guy.
Yeah.
Who wrote that? So, anything you want to plug, Hal? You want to start first? Anything coming up?
Well, I'm at Flappers tonight, and I do but this is the only show that's on a Wednesday. But the last Friday of every month, I do a show at Flappers, an hour of improv stand up.
Fun.
And so this year it's all specials. So the idea is that tonight I'm doing a special, and next month I'll do a special. And all these assholes are like, it takes me 3 years to write a special, can kiss my ass. And I'll put any of these shows up against anything on Netflix. That's my standard. So, and I don't even know what I'm going to talk about tonight. So there. And then,
where's Flappers? Flappers is in Vegas?
No, it's in Burbank, in California.
Oh, Burbank. Okay.
Yeah. And I stream it to my Patreon. So anybody who's a Patreon subscriber I live stream it to them, as well as the people that show up. And then Nerd Halen's on tour, nerdhalen.com. And I just was to say it's awesome. And then every month, except next month we're off, but every month I host the Ultimate Jam Night at the Whiskey. And last night we did New Wave, and I sang Duran Duran and Billy Idol and Tears for Fears. And next month, next show it'll be Metallica and Judas Priest and Rat. But it changes all the time, and nobody rehearses, and they just give us everybody finds out their song 2 days ahead of time, and they play with musicians they've never stood next to, and you just go on the downbeat. It's pretty great.
I'm curious. I've always been curious about tribute bands. Like, have you run into anybody from Van Halen?
Oh yeah, they love it. Yeah,
who have you met?
Yeah.
Who's seen
Michael Anthony, the bass player, has seen us. I know David's seen it because David gave me the greatest compliment I've ever gotten as a musician in my life years ago when I did a show with him, like a pilot that never went, for a talk show. And I sat in with this blues band, and they were all playing together, and he walked up to me afterwards because it was Slash and Duff McKagan and Ray Luzier on drums and David and myself, and I was just playing rhythm guitar, and he walked up to me and went, "Hey man, you're a better guitar player than you think you are." And I was like, "That is beautiful." And so we're on. Yeah, he said, and I saw him again on I Love the '90s, and he repeated it. He was like, he remembered. It was great. But
it's only because you were wearing that "I Suck at Guitar" T-shirt.
That's right. Yeah. But they sell like hotcakes. What can I do?
Really, what a setup.
And Wolfgang, Eddie's son, knows about the band and has been very complimentary and lovely. They've all been good because we're not dressing up to look like them. My rule is, as long as we sound like the record, we can joke between the songs.
Yeah.
And so we dress as nerds, and we know way too much about Van Halen while we're talking about the band and setting songs up. But the songs, we nail it. I mean, we do everything from like Hot for Teacher to Dreams. So I'm doing a scale. I will put myself up against anybody on Broadway these days when I'm having to do that show, because I'm head voice for Hagar and chest voice for David. It's a lot. It's heavy lifting.
Has Valerie seen you?
She hasn't seen us live. She's definitely seen
she knows
clips of us. Yes, of course. She's been lovely about it too. She and Wolfie both talked about it.
Oh, that's cool.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, Kathy, anything you want to mention?
I'm in a Beatles tribute band that you'd all like to hear about. I
would like to hear more about that. Yes.
I'm going to be in at the Covina Laugh Factory on March 8th as part of the Ladies of Laughter show. And other than that, leading up to it, I'm just in town. I'm in LA doing clubs here and there. I don't know what my weekend is yet. And I'll be in Pasadena next month at Bark Comedy, and just loving life.
Yeah. You have to come and do my show sometime. Please come up and do a set, and if you're up
I
for
would
it.
love to.
Yes.
I would absolutely love to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Tom. Your documentary is still running, right?
Yes, still running on Prime, the Comedy Club, and if you want to see my buddy Bob Saget in it, he's in it, and Dana Carvey and a bunch of wonderful people. All right, and it's a walk down memory lane.
And a couple of dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to throw mine in real quick. I'm doing my solo show, Grandma and Me, an ode to single parents at the Sophia Theater on Friday night if you are in the Sacramento
Cool.
area. So I'm in Sacramento this weekend. So Tom Sawyer, you're always here. I have to thank you.
Yeah.
You're always here.
I will. How
Sparks?
about that? I'll thank Tom Sawyer for being
Go
here.
ahead and thank
He
Tom
should be
Sawyer for
thanked.
being here.
It's a lovely human
Thank
being.
Tom. I
Period.
thank him for making it possible to do this show. He's the one that
That's
gets all the
right.
great guests like you guys. So Hal Sparks, Kathy Lavin, thank you. Come back soon, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Always
guys.
a
It was
pleasure.
fun as always.
To have
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right,
Cheers.
so I got a lot of people sampling this show today who've never seen it before. We live stream on Wednesdays, and we drop the recorded version and the audio version on Thursdays. If you saw something here that you liked, you thought was worthwhile, please, a couple of things. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. If you are listening to us on the audio version, give us a 5-star review because it really helps us out and it helps people to find the show. So I will check you out next week. Until then, be kind to your neighbor. He knows where you live.
Bye.
Bye. See you later. Bye. All right. I guess I'm kicking myself out. Is that how it works?